future of the Eugene Emeralds is at stake. A process that started 3 years ago, forcing the Emeralds to find a new stadium, is coming to a head. In February of 2021, Major League Baseball announced a new model for minor league baseball. It upgraded the Emeralds to full-season Single-A and required new standards for facilities, standards which PK Park doesn't meet in its current use. The Emeralds put in proposals on sites to build a new stadium in Springfield and in Eugene. In December of 2021, Lane County began the process of analyzing the design and cost requirements for a multi-use facility that would include a baseball stadium at the Lane Event Center, with the Emeralds as the anchor tenant. In November of 2022, the Lane County Board of Commissioners contracted with a project design manager to analyze the cost and design concepts at the Lane Event Center. In June of 2023, the board received an updated cost and design analysis from the project manager with a price tag right around $100 million. The county has spent almost $150,000 on project management to this point, but that money is running out. So on Tuesday, the board will consider whether to spend more money on the project manager to continue the process.
Well, this is a process that we've been covering since the beginning, and we're grateful for Emeralds General Manager Allan Benavides. Why can't I say that?
Pretty good.
Benavides joining us in studio. No matter what side you're on, there's no one who's been more dedicated, more committed to the cause than Allan. So we do thank you for taking some time out of your schedule for
thanks
this.
for having me.
Now, we saw the timeline. I said this is coming to a head because from the beginning of these talks, the Emeralds have been on a time crunch. I mean, timing has mattered. So now, what is the deadline looking for you? When would you need to inform Major League Baseball that you have a plan? And when would you need to be in a new stadium?
So they sent us letters saying that we need to have something in place, like a funding plan, a site, and when we'll open. And so we're hoping to tell them spring of 26. And, you know, technically the guidelines they put out a few years ago was 25. But with a new build like this, they've given other markets till 26.
A little bit of leeway, but a decision ultimately has to be made.
Correct.
So, you know, what is the pressure like looking for that in terms of when you really need an answer?
Yeah, I mean, September 30th, we got to give them an answer. And we've been working at this for almost, 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So,
explain to our viewers why PK Park just won't work anymore, because I think a lot of people look at it as like, it is a beautiful park, and it's a fun to go to games there, and you guys have spent now over a decade there, but why doesn't that work anymore moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we've been at PK for 14 years. It's been a wonderful facility. The university's been great, but now that our games have increased by 74%, we used to went from 38 home games to 66 home games, starting when we used to start in mid-June, now starting in early April. That overlap with the Oregon Ducks is just insurmountable, right? I mean, there's only one locker room at PK. When we're in there for a third of our season, we're in construction trailers inside the Autzen perimeter. We don't have locker rooms for females. In this league alone, there are 5 female coaches. We have nowhere to put them. We've literally rented motorhomes. And people have asked us, like, well, why don't you just expand PK? Well, there just isn't the footprint at PK. It's just not possible. In the practice times, we just need another field because of that overlap and because of the facility guidelines.
Things have changed. I mean, things have changed.
Absolutely.
You used to have a shorter season. Now you have a longer season. If we could, let's show our viewers a little bit what the funding currently looks like. So far, there's been $22.5 million committed to the project. Now, that can be a little bit misleading. $1.5 million of federal funds to rebuild the livestock facility at the Lane Event Center. $7.5 million from the state, with more being pursued in next year's legislative session. The city of Eugene has not committed any money yet, but is considering up to $15 million. Lane County technically hasn't committed any funds, but the county has passed a transient lodging tax and a car rental tax, which is expected to amount to about $35 million and would be applied to a multi-use facility. And the Emeralds themselves have committed $13.5 million in upfront rent costs. So again, it's a lot of numbers. I think it can glaze over people's heads, but we have $22.5 million committed, up to $60 million with the county and city committing more, but that still leaves us with a funding gap. Are there any more sources that we're looking at to fill that gap?
So right now we have about 2/3 of the money, right? With a third of that being essentially a tourist tax, money from the M's and the state and the feds. We do need the city to help us out here to get there. And the rest of that we can get through naming rights, we can get through other grants, and we're looking at a variety of ways to close that gap. But we do need the city to help us. We've got some Fed money, some state money, and some county money. We need the city to help to get us across the finish line.
There has been some concern in terms of the transient lodging tax, which is essentially a tax on hotels, and then the car rental tax on car rentals, that money is intended to be committed towards tourism dollars.
Correct.
And some people, a lot of hotel managers, would argue the Emeralds don't bring in tourism. What is your response to that?
Oh, I would disagree. I mean, we alone probably bring in 4,000 hotel rooms with the visiting teams, their families, the scouts, the developers. So if the M's go away, that totally goes away, right? But I would also argue that the M's are a catalyst for economic development and output. With the new facility, we're hoping not to only just do baseball, but also bring in OSAA high school championship baseball, hoping to maybe do better graduations where more families can attend. You know, the county can use the stadium for their concerts that they're doing and provide a better experience. It is going to be a dynamic place. The community benefit will be huge, and we're excited to see this be a catalyst for growth at what, frankly, the fairgrounds are fairly dilapidated. You know, we need to modernize that area. It's super close to downtown. We need to get people back to the city core and, and really trying to help come out of what was the pandemic and get people back out to our local businesses and go to Claim 52 and Hot Mama's Wings and go to Beer Stein and then come to a game or a concert or a graduation or whatever it may be. But it is a huge opportunity for our city, and the community benefit will be great.
There have been people voicing their support for the baseball stadium. There have been people voicing their opposition to it. There is a consistent concern about the return on investment. You know, some people look at this as $100 million. I know that's not an exact number, but kind of been floated out there. But yet some people say, well, we're not going to make that money back. What do you say to the people with those concerns?
Well, I would disagree. I mean, the stadium itself is $90 million. The $100 million comes from that $10 million livestock building, which is a guess on behalf of the county, right? It could be $3 million, but that will be figured out with the master plan. I will say that what needs to happen is that 13th Avenue corridor to downtown from the fairgrounds could be greatly improved by a project like this. It is, we have to think big. We have to think, what is the future of our city? What is the future of this community? And this isn't the solution, but it's certainly one of the things that can make our community better and really improve growth for our community. And like, what do we want it to look like, right? I mean, the Emeralds have been here for 70 years. Generations of Oregonians have taken their kids, now their grandkids, and it's just a tradition. We're part of this community. We want to be here for the next 70 years.
And you recently wrote an opinion piece in the Eugene Weekly addressing some of the things that you were just saying. I was caught by this line that we see on the screen. This stadium isn't just about the Emeralds. It's about our local community and what we want our city's future to look like, kind of what you were just addressing. So what is the intrinsic value in your mind of a minor league baseball team and specifically the Eugene Emeralds here in Lane County in Eugene?
Yeah, look, we obviously are a baseball team. We're going to do 66 games, but it's about what else do we bring to the table, right? We just hosted a benefit for the Boys and Girls Club a week ago. We raised $200,000 by a dinner we did on the field on an off day for the Boys and Girls Club. We work with the Relief Nursery. We work with dozens of nonprofits year round. We have been not handcuffed by only using a stadium for 3 months out of the year, but I am excited about what we can do with a facility that we can operate for the community year round. We think about doing a boxing tournament for Cinco de Mayo. We think about doing Christmas events and holiday event during the month of December, right? We need to get the community back out. We need to get people back to downtown, and I think this is a tremendous opportunity to do that.
Allan, I mentioned all these public comments for and against. I have a whole bunch of them. I read through them. One line that came out of this, and I don't know if you saw this, it said, Allan Benavides is also a huge asset, and it would be nice to have him around.
Oh, thanks.
And we appreciate you being around here to talk about where this team is at and what's the future.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be right back.